Good afternoon. My name is Rick Petrie, and we are here for the Supplier Showdown Fulfillment. Always the sexiest part of the direct marketing business. But you know, the fact is, these are the guys that are touching your customers every day. So hopefully we'll learn some insights. My name is Rick Petrie. I provide creative services to the industry. I'm a former chairman of ERA. Delighted to be here. What I'm going to do is introduce you to our panelists, but I'm going to read the bio right before each of you goes up. So our first contestant is I.L. Lotz. He likes pina coladas, getting wet in the rain. I'm sorry, that's the wrong bio. He is the president and founder of A2B Fulfillment, Inc. The company evolved from I.L.'s family toy business, which was affiliated with other toy companies, eventually becoming their distributor. Today, A2B is a leading provider of fulfillment warehousing and logistics services for consumer direct and e-commerce. Unique programs of the company include free storage and same-day ship guarantee. The company's 180,000 square foot facility is located in Greensboro, Georgia, just outside the transportation hub of Atlanta. And then next to Ayala is Patrick. We'll get into his bio later, from Moulton Logistics Management, and then Dan Reeves from InnoTrack. The way this format is going to work is I'm going to ask these gentlemen a question, and they're each going to give you their unique response. And then we're going to ask those of you out in the audience to tell us who you think sort of won this competition. So, gentlemen, are you ready to rumble? All right. I just wanted to say that. Kind of like Vive la France. All right. So the question we're going to ask today is, what can a fulfillment company do to ensure that a marketer gets the greatest revenue and customer satisfaction to be derived from each individual consumer? Fact is, we're much more reliant on relationships versus transactions these days. Continuity plays a big part. So we're going to hear from each of these gentlemen about how they would answer this question. So I'll throw it over to you.
All right. Everybody hear me? Okay. Thanks for coming to listen to this. All right. So the answer, you know the question. The answer, okay. So customers are like a swarm of bees. Without the honey, there's no attraction. So what I've chosen to focus on here is the customer satisfaction portion. Huh? Can't hear me? You can't hear? Is that better? Okay. All right. So what I'm focusing on today is the customer satisfaction portion. Of course, you know, there are ways to derive more revenue from every sale with revenue enhancement techniques, et cetera, but what I'm talking about is keeping a customer happy. And by keeping a customer happy, they're going to stay a customer, they're going to order again, they'll stay on continuity. And that's really where the greatest revenue opportunity, I believe, is for a marketer. So places to shine, we just talked about that. There are, you know, what a marketer does really affects how well their product or their campaign is going to be received. So that could be everything from selling style, the value of the offer, the ease of the ordering process, flexibility of payment and receipt. But those are all decisions that you're going to make really upstream of the fulfillment center. Although sometimes the fulfillment center does help with some of these things, we're not going to focus on those, but they do exist. So what do customers really want? You know, and it's kind of simple. I want you maybe, actually, let's just take a second. All of you, close your eyes for a minute and think about a product that you would love to have that you can order online on television. Okay, maybe it's a toaster or that blender, okay? And you think about that. Now, this is going to be a fun PowerPoint going forward because you're going to keep this product in mind, and this is what you're going to get. So what do you want? You want fast delivery. Everybody wants that. We're living in kind of this Amazon world now where you kind of expect it tomorrow, and pretty soon it's almost going to mean same day. So fast delivery. You've got proactive communication. Nobody wants to wonder, where's my order? What's going on with it? Has it been processed? Exceptional customer service if you happen to have to call in for any reason. And then if you do want to return, have an easy, streamlined return policy. And all of this is going to, if you do all these things right, you're making a customer happier, and they're more likely to stay with you and come back. So fast delivery begins with fast fulfillment. Okay, so to start with this, you have to have a same-day fulfillment, same-day shipping philosophy. This has got to be kind of ingrained in your being, okay, as a marketer. So, if you want to speed up this process, you have to think of it that the order is going to come in and you're going to turn that order quickly. And so, you strap a rocket to the back and you move things along fast. Yeah, right. So how do you achieve same day? Okay, so the philosophy we just talked about, a lot of it has to do with technology. So, you got to think about maybe moving away from some of those older batch processes where every night at midnight the file goes to fulfillment, and explore ways to get the order from the acquisition point into the fulfillment center quickly, because fulfillment obviously can't do anything before they have the order. So get that via maybe a real-time data feed, or maybe frequent batch files essentially accomplish the same thing. Having those advanced systems to really get that order from receipt in that system out to the floor. And again, this is back to philosophy. Both you, the marketer, have it, the fulfillment center has to have it as well, because that's how we're going to design our process. So are we going to wait for orders to collect so that maybe it's a more efficient process for us to process all those orders tomorrow once they've all been consolidated? Or have we, because of philosophy, designed a process where the order comes into our system and is practically immediately available out on the floor to be picked, packed, shipped, etc.? And that's the process. Location is a big part of this, and there are different strategies to location. And my competitors here that I'm boxing with all have multiple locations. A2B does not. Outside of, we have Toronto, but in domestic U.S. we have one location. So there's different strategies, and obviously having bi-coastal or multi-location is a good thing. It doesn't always necessarily make sense for every client, depending on complexity, etc. But that's obviously great. But you can also accomplish a lot with one location, assuming that it's strategic. That's a population map down there, and all those lights are people. Approximately 80% of the population in the U.S. is east of the Mississippi. So by being kind of smack dab in the middle of where the people are, is a good thing. And sometimes you're a marketer's kind of focused on where the product is coming from. I would challenge marketers to think about where's the product going, because it's a lot more efficient to move product in bulk somewhere and then much smaller distances one by one. Logic-based shipping is another way to really accomplish a fast process. So leverage good technology that not only maybe picks the least expensive carrier, but maybe achieves your time in transit goal. So, one way to do that is to think about, where am I shipping to? And let's say here the goal is 2-day shipping, and I chose that because that's a lot of, what an Amazon might do. Okay, so if 2-day shipping is really the goal, send it 2 days, and there's multiple ways to do that. But you can optimize what that really costs you by leveraging some logic and technology that's able to choose that logic. So for example, if you're located within close proximity of the consumer and can reach them via a standard ground offering, or maybe it's even a discounted parcel solution that will get there in 2 days, then let your system choose that option and benefit from paying the lowest possible fee. Then the ones that are further away, you have to upgrade to maybe a 2-day air at a higher rate. But on average, you've leveraged that technology to really give you a good result. Proactive communication. Okay, go to the customer. Don't make the customer come to you. That's an annoyance, and they remember that. So that can be order confirmation emails. We got your order. Shipment confirmation email. Here's the order. It's shipped. Here's a tracking number. An exception email or maybe even a call. So, technology today, especially with shipping carriers, you as the shipper, we as the shipper, know when a package has gone astray. If it was damaged in the carrier system, we get a notification. So, the fulfillment center can leverage that notification, then proactively call the consumer and say, hey, we noticed something happened with your package on its way. We're now going to automatically send a new one to you, expedite it, so there'll be no disruption. Much better than waiting for the customer to call you 2 weeks later and say, still haven't got it. Presentation is an important factor. Consumers, that toaster that you're buying, you want to feel good about that purchase. You don't want to feel like you got ripped off. And one great way of feeling ripped off is paying $39.99 for that toaster, and then it arrives in a really crappy package that looks bad and shows that the company you bought it from chose the absolute cheapest way to deliver that package to you in its presentation. So, that's a good example there of, a very small package, and it could be that beautiful white box or what a bubble mailer ultimately looks like when it arrives at your location. So which would you prefer to receive your toaster in? And the cost differential is often very small.
I have a quick question on that matter. The overriding philosophy for DR products used to be throw it in a plain brown box. But now with Amazon and just, people looking at e-commerce as the equivalent of retail, do you see a change in that? Do you see a shift?
I do. I think more people are realizing, more marketers are realizing that investing a little bit, and we're talking a very small percentage of cost, in a better presentation ultimately pays off. And, the customer satisfaction, we're talking about customer retention, continuity, things like that, but it's also the returns. If you get something that you don't feel good about, that's 1 point against who you bought from, and you're second guessing your purchase in general. So now there's a second problem, and forget it, now you're calling and you're returning. So that costs you in customer service, you're losing the sale, it's coming back, and it's all because you wanted to save maybe 20 cents on a package, and that just doesn't make good business sense. And I think a lot of people are realizing that now. Customer service is important. You've got to have that open channel of communication. Hopefully you're not going to get lots and lots of calls, but that's part of the purchase, and people expect to be able to reach out to who they bought that toaster from and get service support, answer their questions. So, work really closely with your partner. Find a good partner that understands the value in customer service and can do a little bit more than just, Wizmo calls. Where's my order? Be able to have a little bit of product knowledge, invest a little bit more in training so that when somebody calls, they feel good about their interaction with you. And it could be another opportunity to bond with that customer and sell them something again in the future.
And apparently wearing a headset like that makes everybody incredibly good looking.
Right. And this particular woman works for a lot of call centers, including ours. So, easy return policy and process. Okay, this can, hardline return policy can really come to bite you, and this has changed over time. Before it was a social world. Okay, you could kind of, as a marketer, you could have the strategy that you would just make it very difficult, if not impossible, to make a return. That would discourage the consumer from making the return, and you would keep your precious sale. But today, that's really, it's like suicide, because what's going to happen is that customer is going online. Other potential customers see that, and you don't even know what you're missing. People are not ordering your product because of what they're finding. And it's unnecessary, because you make it easy for the return. You can even kind of make a sweet spot out of it by getting some incremental revenue back from what's otherwise a negative thing. So as an example, offer the return, try to talk them out of it, that's fine. But if they want to return, offer a shipping label. a prepaid shipping label that will save the customer time. They don't have to go to the post office, stand in line, and importantly, pay a retail price. Okay? You get that label much cheaper, and there could be a margin there. You could offer that customer for a convenience fee of $10. I'll send you a label, and you can get make your life a lot easier, and it'll be cheaper than what you pay at the post office. But that label might cost you $6 or $7, and now you've made a few dollars on a bad situation. You've prevented a worse situation by making somebody upset and mad. So choose your fulfillment partner wisely, and your customers will be jumping up and down, and that's what ultimately all of us want, is a successful partnership and relationship.
Great, thank you, Eyal. Next, I'm going to welcome to center stage Patrick Moulton, who's the Director of New Business for Moulton Logistics Management. Moulton Logistics Management is a full-service order fulfillment house and customer service center focused on the unique needs of DRTV marketers. He's also the son of the company's president, Larry Moulton. Patrick has worked at Moulton Logistics covering a variety of roles and responsibilities. He currently oversees small parcel distribution and new business development. What's more, Patrick is a UCLA graduate specializing in business administration. I just wanted to play this for you here to walk you to the stage. You can't hear that. Yeah, it's not loud enough. That's the USC fight song, my alma mater. Well, actually, I'm starting a one-year program at UCLA. I'm not a hater, on Monday. Okay, take it away.
All right, cool. So I think that was great, Eyal. I definitely agree with a lot of what Eyal had to say there. We were given this assignment, and this is the first time we're actually getting to see what each other had presented up there. So what I may present, you may have already seen in Eyal's slides, but the good thing about that, I think, is that you can see that the companies are on the same page in terms of the ideas that we're bringing forth to you. So the only comment that I would have that may be a little bit different than Eyal's perspective is that when I go through the slides on the suggestions that we came up with, I would like you to think that there's not one size that fits all for the marketers. So although those are some really good ideas, and we have a lot of the same ideas, there could be situations where it does make sense for the marketer to send something in a cheaper packaging. So a lot of the DRTV guys are shipping product for a very small margin. They're shipping things at $19.99. So it's very different than an e-commerce company that could be shipping product that's, has a $50 price point. And the e-commerce guys also have a difference of protecting their brand. They're protecting a store and a company. And every time they ship something out, they actually have a higher probability of getting an additional sale versus DRTV, which often uses the product itself as a brand. And often they use it more of sell it once and then launch a new product type of strategy. And it's not to say that any one strategy is better than the other strategy. It's just two different sales strategies. So as we go through the slide and I show you guys some of the different line items, some of the different touch points where fulfillment and customer service options are for you, just keep in mind your own price point and your own brand strategies, because that's really what's going to determine what the right answer is for you. So if we go over to this kind of just talks about what I was referring to. If we talk about DRTV versus an e-commerce, and it really doesn't even have to be e-commerce. Really, we're looking at somebody with a lower price point versus higher price point. We're talking about brand loyalty, whether that's a product being the brand versus the store being the brand. We're talking about product uniqueness. DRTV has to launch something that's very unique, and they spend a lot of money in the development of that. So they've got a lot of additional costs on the DRTV side. You've got things like inbound call centers that you may not have with the e-commerce. So imagine the challenge that DRTV has. You have more product development costs, you have more partners being involved to additionally increase your expenses, and yet you're working with a lower price point. So at the end of the day, you have to be really careful about your selections in terms of fulfillment as far as the speed or the type of packaging or the type of customer service that you're going to present for that product in order that you can stay profitable. So these are just more examples: video production, media, and margin. So we can go ahead and go to the next slide. I broke it down into 3 different categories. The first is going to be fulfillment touch points. So moving from left to right, I kind of wanted to show that there's a slight shift happening in DRTV. So I put traditional DRTV, meaning kind of the history. Current is where we are today in DRTV. And e-commerce, kind of to me, they kind of set the stage for the future and what those type of opportunities are. You'll start to notice the options. E-commerce tends to utilize a lot of the options that Ayal was talking about. And you'll notice here as we move from traditional to current DRTV that there is a shift from the old ways of DRTV to the way that e-commerce works. And so there is a shift going in that direction. So as we go through the touch points, the first one's pretty obvious. You want to put the right item in the right order. So that's straight up across the board. Gift packaging is an option as far as customer delight. You don't really see that in old DRTV. It's really not happening in current DRTV so much. If you're an e-commerce provider, you may want to have something like a custom tissue wrap inside of that packaging, or something that's really actually gift presented very nicely. Gift messaging, that's something that didn't really used to happen in DRTV packages, but that's something that's pretty easy for the fulfillment guys to do now. You can write a gift message on there. We'll put it onto the order packing slip. So that's something that really doesn't have an additional charge for you. This one's kind of funny. Packing slips with customer service numbers. In the past, we actually had some clients who didn't want you to put a packing slip in, and they didn't want you to be able to find the customer service number. It was, they went out of their way to make it difficult. So rules have changed since then. That's not really the common way to do it. So now DRTV does it, e-commerce both does it. Continuity programs, pretty obvious. You know, you can maximize the order value and the lifetime order by having continuity, so you definitely want to do that. Branded shipping boxes are a nice option. So like I was talking about the presentation on the box, if you put your logo on the outside, that's a good option to have. But again, there's going to come with additional cost to that. You've got to print those things on the box, and now you're managing the packaging inventory. As opposed to a generic box, you don't have to worry about it. The fulfillment company is going to keep those things in stock. It's the fulfillment company's problem to get the lowest price and to make sure that you don't run out of those items. And it's one last thing for a headache for you. Rick, this was your question asking about the packaging inside the box as far as a brown box versus a retail packaging. And as we all know, it looks very different if you go to a Bed Bath & Beyond and buy one of the products in here. You'll see it packaged very nicely. And then the way that they used to do it is if you bought it on DRTV, they would just take a couple of those items, drop them in a brown box, and you get it. And as the customer, I think, definitely you feel kind of gypped in that sense. You know, you're taking the little pieces out, and they're just loose in there. So we are seeing a transition of more DRTV clients spending a little bit extra and actually shipping out the retail packaging within the brown box, but at least it's the retail packaging inside of that box. So, and you'll notice, again, the green on this side for e-commerce. The e-commerce guys are pretty much utilizing all of these. Traditional was not doing these things and is shifting into doing these things as far as the fulfillment touch points. So that's, before we go to the next one, does anyone have any questions on the fulfillment aspect, the touch points? No? All right, jump to, so the 2 other touch points I'll talk about briefly is going to be the shipping touch points and then the customer service touch points. So the shipping is really, really important because obviously the person who ordered the product, they don't really know what's happening in the meantime. They get the box, the presentation, that's one aspect of it. But the speed that they receive the box is very, very important. I would slightly disagree in a philosophy that says always ship the fastest way possible because speed comes with cost on that package. So you can't always ship to a further destination in a really, really fast speed, or you could, but you're going to pay a lot. And again, for the DRTV marketer, it may not make sense. And the answer to that is it really depends upon your product, your price point. You know, somebody is going to order an iPad and expect that as quickly as possible. And when they don't have it, they're going to be contacting you all day long. Now, if they ordered, you know, toenail clippers for their dog, maybe they can wait a little longer. I mean, maybe that's not a good example. Maybe you want that quick. But either way, each product will have its own necessity.
It depends on how long those nails are.
That is very true. So But each product will have its own necessity. So you want to really pay attention and know each of your product lines. There's really no one speed fits all. Obviously, ideally, you want to get it there to keep them happy and have them not contact you for customer service, because that's when your costs really start going up. And we've seen a change in this area, actually. A lot of the DRTV marketers used to tell us, ship it the cheapest, slowest way. I want to save money. I want to save money. Real slow. I don't care. I don't care how long it takes. We're telling them it's going there in 2 to 4 weeks. We still even advertise that on our website. That's kind of crazy. I don't know who's going to really wait 2 to 4 weeks anymore. I don't even think that's a good idea to put on your website personally, but what we're seeing currently is an average time for DRTV using about a 5 to 9 day time in transit. On the e-commerce side, you'll see things a lot faster, anywhere from 1, but the e-commerce guys can still ship things in up to 9 days. It really does depend on the product, so you have to get to know your product and know who your customers are and what their expectations are. Shopping cart integration. This is really talking about kind of a shift in that when the person's on your website and they're going to order something, a lot of the DRTV shopping carts currently will just say, okay, click here, here's how much it's going to cost. Do you want it fast or do you want it slow? If you look at the e-commerce guys, they've taken it one step further and they basically integrate into the fulfillment company's database. And that way when you're on the website, it'll give you those options. It'll say, do you want it in 1 day, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, whatever it is. And each time you do that, it looks at where your zip code is. And the website will basically tell you, here's how much your new cost is. Now, the only way the website can do that is to be integrated with the fulfillment shipping data. So that's something that didn't used to happen in DRTV. We're starting to see that right now with some of the DRTV accounts that recognize the value in that. The e-commerce guys already recognize that, and that's pretty common for them. That's something that they do, and I think that's something we'll see a lot more of on the DRTV side. Gift messaging, that's a mistake. That should have been in the other section. Packing slips, this part. I'll jump down here. Delivery made by brand name courier, that's another change that's going on. It used to be that you'd come in and go, okay, well, you know, we're a UPS or we're a FedEx or we're a whatever it's going to be, and my customer expects to see that brown truck drive up all the time. We're seeing a shift in that. It's not always the case. Those carriers are great. We use all of the carriers. We're a multi-carrier facility. We don't believe that any one carrier is the best carrier. We believe that all carriers have different areas that they're better at and different areas that they're not better at. Some may deliver better to a certain zip code versus not. We track those things, and we basically choose carriers based off of who delivers best during that time. So you may get a Christmas time, and FedEx maybe doesn't deliver to Omaha as well as UPS. So we'll track and monitor those things for you and make sure that we're using the best combination of carriers. So the end user really doesn't care which truck drives up to bring the package, I hate to tell you. So they just want the package to be delivered, look nice, and be in shape. Free shipping is an option that is definitely in the e-commerce side of things. You're seeing more and more and more of that. It puts a lot of pressure on the DRTV side of things, and you'll see some DRTV guys starting to try to do that. But imagine if you're giving free shipping, we know there's no such thing as free shipping. The marketer's paying for the shipping. So if you're going to try to offer free shipping, you better get your shipping costs down to as low of a rate as possible. If not, you are basically going to be in big trouble with your margins. So that's something they didn't used to do, moving over towards it. It's going to be a real interesting pressure for both the fulfillment company and the shipping companies to keep lowering those shipping costs so that the marketers can offer free shipping.
I actually want to ask you a question on that. It does seem that our consumers are loath to pay for shipping, and as you say, it puts more pressure on the cost of goods sold. I think part of it is that we violated the public trust by telling them that there are exclusive TV offers when they go to retail and they see the same product there, and that's part of the problem. But what percentage of the programs now are you seeing that are offering free shipping, and is anybody doing free return shipping?
Right. Now, that's a really good question, and it's a very small percentage, actually. We're starting to see it. I think that some of the marketers are starting to use terms like processing and handling. I'm seeing a change in the way that they're presenting it as far as the numbers are concerned. Not very many are offering free shipping, and certainly I haven't really seen any on the DRTV side offering return shipping, because again, it's just too expensive, and I don't necessarily think that it even makes sense for them. So I think that they're doing it the right way, but I think what you were...
Personal testimonials work. And at other times, if that doesn't work, either trying to find out that maybe if it's a product like an ingestible or fitness equipment, that extending the money-back guarantee helps out. And then we can also, for ingestibles, be able to delay shipments if they have too much product, or increase the duration if they have too much product. So anything to do that. And then also the final one is ultimately lowering the value of future shipments. However the customer calls you, however the call ends up, you want the customer to have a good experience. Otherwise, you're going to get blasted on social media. So what we believe a fulfillment center should also do is monitor your social media. And that ties back to being empathetic with the customer, because if you're monitoring your social media, then you can understand what the customers are saying, and you can train your CSR so when somebody calls up, that they know how to handle that customer. And finally, transactional email marketing, that's what we've mentioned before as shipment notification and order notification emails. And what we really feel is that the marketer today, to extend their revenue, really needs to be branding their emails. So we found that studies have shown that a branded email on a shipment confirmation or order confirmation, the customer is likely to open that and read that over 50% of the time. Excuse me. If you do not brand that and you just send a simple HTML email, it drops down to 1.3%. In another way, you're missing out on a big, huge marketing opportunity to drive the customer back to your website, new offers, new promos, and that's extremely important. Finally, we believe in technology as a great way to increase customer satisfaction and increase your revenue. So we believe in campaign management and also advanced technology systems for OMS and CRMS. So we've talked about that you need the systems to handle the wide variety of programs, such as payment plans, continuity plans. And then the other thing is really business intelligence, which is reporting, dashboards, and mobile and data discovery. And for you to do campaign analytics, it's no longer acceptable to have data that's 2 days, 3 days, 4 days old. You need it real time. So anyway, we believe in really coming down to your business intelligence, answering basically one question and then backing up to understanding how did we get there. So let's take an example of a campaign where it's $1 million in sales. So you spent $500,000 in media and you got 1 million, so you got a 2, great, woohoo. Then you've got payment plans in that. So all of a sudden, by the 5-month payment plan, by the end of the payment period, you may only have $700,000. So basically, you thought you got $1 million, but your cash, which you can pay your bills with, is only $700,000. So the key of any business intelligence system is to be able for you to understand what happened to that other $300,000. So, and we also know that everybody's on the go a lot, and so one of the key things is to be able to go mobile. So as we advance into the next, go ahead and change it. Oh, so as we advanced, people want to be able to see their dashboards, their charts, wherever they are. That would be on tablets, mobile, or your PC.
Thank you, Dan. So, you know, you brought up the social networking part of the equation, and one of the things that, or reputation management is what I'll call it, that I'm sort of astounded by is that if you Google a lot of direct response products, people are not necessarily doing a great job of managing their reputation. And I'm not just talking about, you know, sites. There's sort of bounty hunters that target the industry. There are sites that, you know, have wonderful names like hell and scams in them that are actually folks that are looking to make money off of marketers by co-opting their reputation. What role does the fulfillment company play in helping manage that? Is that something you guys are getting involved in, or is it left to the marketer to do? I'll start with you, Patrick.
I think it's a combination of both at this point. The social monitoring that was mentioned is something that's really important, and I agree. I don't think that the DRTV brands are necessarily, as far as I know, maybe they're doing it on their own, but they aren't really asking us to do that for them as much. They may be handling their own social websites, but they're using their social and thinking of it more in terms of how do we sell more, how do we promote ourselves more, as opposed to how do we protect our brand and how do we make sure to be monitoring these opportunities for our customers to voice their opinion on top of their own brand. So right now, what we see is that a lot of the marketers are trying to manage that on their own. I think that there will probably be a shift in having the customer service side of things do more and more of that. And then with the new technologies that is being released to monitor social across multiple platforms, because it's very difficult now. Things are getting more and more fragmented, and the consumer can post things all over the place. It doesn't necessarily have to just be on Facebook or Twitter anymore. So to monitor all those things, you really need to have a social like monitoring platform, and that technology exists. And I think that we'll see more and more demand for the customer service side to handle those things. I think that's still on the forefront, and the marketers are kind of going to be figuring that out sooner rather than later, I'd say.
What do you say, Ayal?
Yeah, I agree with a lot of that. You know, we're starting to become more and more involved in the management, if you will, of some of those social sites in our customer service department. But like Patrick said, it's a challenge because it's not just Facebook or Twitter. There's lots of them now. But where we're really, I think the power of a fulfillment center to be involved, at least in a monitoring standpoint, is, you know, we're your first line of defense. So we're hearing feedback from your customers in the call center. We're seeing, you know, the call center managers watching the Facebook page on a daily on a real-time basis to see if there are complaints, not necessarily just for us to be able to go and manage that one customer and their concern, but to identify and predict, you know, potential problems. Depending on what the complaint is. Hey, I received my package and the thing is not working. Okay, let's call down to the warehouse. Let's inspect that product. Let's notify the marketer. Let's try to solve this problem before it gets any bigger.
Dan?
I would agree with that, and it also helps predict customer feedback. So, for example, if somebody orders something from a website that it's advertised as a white dress and it shows up that it's cream, by doing the social monitoring, we can already see that the customers have identified that this is really a cream dress, and then we can go back to the marketer and say, hey, you need to change your marketing on your website. It's not really white, it's cream. Also, we can see product complaints early on. So if somebody's complaining about, in the DRTV world, complaining about a script, I thought I was going to get this for free and I didn't get it, then we can provide that feedback to the telemarketer to say, hey, we may have a problem with the script, and be more proactive with it.
Sure. Does the audience have any questions for these gentlemen? Anything? I want to ask one more question, guys, then. I write a column for Electronic Retailer, and I have one coming up in Q4 that talks about some rumble I've heard about regulators looking at folks charging for rush shipping when in fact they're shipping regularly. And I wondered what you guys are seeing on the front line as far as that issue goes. Why don't we start with you, Dan?
Is it on? Okay, good. Yeah, and I think the key there is really conveying to the customer that you're not paying for rush shipping, that you're paying for a delivery time. So if you want your package delivered 3 days, that we'll get it to you in 3 days, and this is the cost to it, as opposed to actually advertising that you're doing rush shipping or expedited shipping. So I'm seeing on the websites and with telemarketers that they're in the marketers that we're actually just talking about delivery transit time and not a type of service.
I agree with that as well. We're seeing a lot less specificity about what carrier you're using. So it's, nobody's saying UPS 2-day air. It's, again, more of the delivery time. And, even shipping UPS ground is a faster service than maybe a FedEx Smart Post, for example, which is more of a consolidator model. So rush can mean a lot of things, but really if you be sure to sell the delivery window rather than the specific service, then I think that you're in compliance and you're sticking true to what you're selling.
Yeah, definitely agree on that one. You'll notice a change, whereas you may have gone to websites before and they're asking you for the speed and they're saying something like, oh, you pick UPS. Definitely you want to leave yourself open to the options. Talk about speed, don't talk about who the carrier is or what the service level is. Just talk about delivery dates is what I'd recommend. In addition to that, I think we also, as I mentioned before, there is a change in the terminology going on. I don't know if it will work to protect them, but basically the term of, processing and handling as opposed to shipping and handling. So the marketers are kind of changing that term, which is kind of a combination of maybe your fulfillment and handling charges as well as delivery charges, as opposed to saying you're paying for only this delivery aspect and what was your cost there versus what did you charge. They've grouped them together, and at that point, it's its own service, and you can put your own price point on it at that point. So,
okay, great. Well, listen, we do call this a showdown, which means we're having a competition of sorts here. So by show of applause, I'd like you guys to break it out for each of these gentlemen. We'll start with Patrick from Moulton Logistics Management. And Ayel from A2B. And Dan from InnoTrack. All right, you Homer.
Loud.
All right. I think that was a three-way tie, and you're all winners. Anyway, thank you all for participating. Really appreciate it. Have a great conference.
Thanks, everybody.